My name is Sergey. I work at Wix. Here's the right slide. I work at Wix. I'm a team lead there in our head office in Tel Aviv. Wix is, for those of you who don't know, Wix is a platform where everyone can build their own website very easily, also grow and manage their own business. We have already over 100 million users, which is a lot, and which makes our life very much fun in terms of scale. And here I'm going to talk to you about architecture. But before we start talking, I would like to make a small confession. Because talking about architecture is difficult. It is very theoretical. Material usually goes with slides or diagrams. And it took me a while to think how I'm going to approach this talk, which I wanted to do, honestly, for quite a while, about probably half a year. So the way I decided I'm going to do that, I'll have very little slides at the very beginning. Then we're going to do a very small demo and dive into more into code. Okay? Yeah, fine. Okay. You're after a break, everybody should wait, because Martin said, well, you're not ready to digest code in the morning. Now it's almost lunchtime, so we will digest. I will push into your code. Okay, so how are we going to structure our talk today? So we'll start a little bit with the history. I'll talk like what happened in the past that forced us to approach the architecture that was born. As I said, I'll show you the live demo, then I'll show you, the live demo will explain, actually will show you how it works, and then we'll dive into more explanation in under the hood to see actually the real code of the library, and we'll conclude it with where it might be useful for you, okay? So let's start. Imagine we have a hypothetical project, okay? We have a team of 3, and we need to write some product, okay? So where do we start? Okay. Last time when I did the dry run, somebody told me tests. I'm like, holy shit, TDDs in your minds. Well, usually we start choosing a framework, okay? It's a framework conference, so I can't not mention them. So we start, I don't know, choosing Angular, or like now it's React, it's super fancy. And then some very extreme guy comes and like, guys, no, we have to write it in Elm, or like what's popular on Vue.js, okay? What's going to be popular in a year, God knows. And that's cool. So you have your application, you know, let's say it's running half a year, and then somebody comes and says, listen, I need a feature, okay? Somebody from outside of your team. And you don't have capacity to write this feature, okay? You have full backlog. And you said, sure. No problem, you know, like you're a developer, Martin, like I totally can allow Martin to do PR. And then I have to review it, or my colleagues have to review it, I have to push it. So I still have to do some work, but Martin is doing most of the work. And then, you know, my colleague comes and I look at the code base and I'm like, what the fuck? Who wrote that code? I'm like, well, you know, my colleague, let's call him, I don't know, Vasily. He said, well, I merged that. I'm like, did you read? Well, I kind of did, but you know, but we were under pressure, so I just merged it. And then another colleague comes and like, what the fuck is that? And we're like, we don't know. So we've been there. I think most of us been there. And then a very pissed team lead says, no, screw it. I'm not gonna allow that. And then another bright person kind of like, sure, let's do iframes. You're not going to populate my CSS. You're not going to ruin my JavaScript. Everybody, you won't show your part in my application. I'll put you inside the iframe. You're not going to mess it up. And sure, we lived like that for, I think, 3 years or something like that. And then, okay, so life is good. Another person comes like, listen, I need a feature X, and you should do it like in 2 weeks. And you said, yeah, that's fine. It sounds reasonable. And then you have iframes, and you're starting to do integration inside iframes. You start using post messages and all the asynchronous shit that comes with that. What was that? That was an asynchronous shit. And then your full integration, that really small, supposed to take you, I don't know, 2 weeks. Really small. And it turns out to be a mess. And it takes you, I don't know, months. Cool, iframes. And then your boss says, and listen, our application is loading in about 8 seconds. And you're like, well, my app loads in 2 seconds. And he said, no, no, no. The user sees the full picture after 8 seconds. Like, well, you know, there is an iframe. And then that iframe loads another iframe and another iframe. And like, what the hell do you expect from me? Yeah, iframes, fucking iframes. And then you want to do server-side rendering, server-side rendering, and you actually already get the picture, okay? So it's 2017. We have so much stuff going on. We have like Polymer, progressive web apps, service workers, a lot of stuff. Okay, so let's try to imagine what's the real world, not the real, the ideal world that I want to have my application. So it's single-page application with lazy loaded isolated modules. Very long sentence, so let's try to break it. So what do I want? I want single-page apps, okay? I think I'm not going to explain it too much. We all know and agree that single-page app is the thing to go. What I do want is to have a lazy loaded module. What does it mean? It means like, let's say I have a big application. This is what we have. I have over 100 people working on the application in different teams. And since the application is so big, the user, when it uses the application, it doesn't necessarily, or she is going to enter that area of the application. So I don't need to bundle and load the code that user actually don't need, right? So what I want is, oh, okay, so user wants to load, I don't know, ecom or any other application, so I'm going to load their JavaScript, load their CSS on demand. But when I do that, on the other hand, I want all those modules to be isolated. I don't want any leaks of JavaScript, any leaks of CSS, and it pains me that we still have sometimes to deal with that. We have CSS modules, we have Shadow DOM, so we have basically all those technologies, but honestly, some of them are really hard to use in production on scale. Second thing that I wanted is support existing independent React Angular applications. So what the hell that means? So that means like support existing apps, support existing code that we have. I can't come to the app. Oh shit, I forgot to turn the timer on. Okay. So I can't come to the other team and who have like thousands of lines in Angular and say, guys, we're going to rewrite the whole platform, so it's going to be React, so now you have to write it in React. And they're also like, fuck you, man. I don't know, right? So our purpose here is to maintain and to keep, like, call it legacy code, but code that we have already written many years ago. What I want also is for all those modules to be independent. What does it mean? I want them to be independently deployable. Okay, so it means like if some module, some other team want to deploy their code, I don't have to deploy my code. Okay, they have a bug, they want to roll back their version. I shouldn't care about it. It's their problem. They wake up at night, they fix their bugs. I have TDD thingy, I have all the tasks. I'm nice, I'm sleeping good at night. I want to be in that state. And again, React Angular app, we used to have a lot of Angular code. And then about like year and a half ago, when Angular 2 went out of beta, or just wasn't beta, I don't remember. So we had a really big consortium of, okay, guys, what's our future? We have Angular 1x application. What are we doing? We going to React? We're going to Angular 2? What are we doing? And we tried to reach a conclusion. And what do you think? Did we? What? Yeah, so basically we didn't reach the conclusion, and we have one build stack that every project is using. And we said, okay, so it's gonna be agnostic. You wanna write your application in React? Fine. You wanna write your application in Angular? Okay, weird, still we can, sure. You wanna use Angular 2? Yeah, Angular 4? Whatever, do whatever you want. So, framework agnostic. So your architecture is also should be framework agnostic, because tomorrow some guy wanna use Vue.js, sure, why not? Okay, so single page application with lazy loaded isolated modules support existing independent React Angular applications. Cool, that's the ideal world that I personally, as a front-end developer in 2017, wanna live in. Does it exist? Let's find out. So what I do first as an engineer, I Google it. I say, I'm not the smartest. Somebody must have already done that. And what I Google, render Angular inside React application, because that's what I want to do. And whenever you try to Google it, everything that you find out is how to render React application inside Angular. Who released it? You just spoiled all my talk. Okay, sure. Okay, so you'll show me. So at least when I did that slide 4 days ago, that library didn't exist. So and why basically that happened? Why we have most of React inside Angular? Because Angular is a full-blown framework. And when React just came, they said, well, we're not framework, we're library, we're just UI library. So we're just in charge of UI, and that's it. So people said, oh, sure. And when there wasn't such thing as an Angular component, so they tried to use React component inside Angular. And basically, these are most of the libraries that exist now, like ngReact, React to Angular, and Angular to React. These like 3 main libraries. And I said, okay, so this is the world that we have basically now. We have Angular application that inside has many React components. What I want is, I want to have a React application because I want to be fancy. Now React is a very fashionable thing. I don't want to write my application in Angular. I'll write it in React. But I have my legacy code, so I want to render the Angular application, Angular model inside my application. And then Angular guys come, they said, well, we have other modules that we want to render inside our application. Or other team comes and says, like, this is what we need. And it might be React, and might be Angular, because some other guys, and most of the guys, like, they want to write in React now. So this is the idea, okay? Is it clear to everyone? Because this is the key slide here. What we want. We want like a big soup salad, whatever you call it. So I want React inside Angular, Angular inside React, lazily, and that it will all play together very nice. Are we good? Yeah? Okay, cool. Demo time. So now, if something will go wrong, please be kind to me. Martin gave me a very nice tip how to manage some failures. I will do that next time. So what we have basically, what I have in the demo is 2 separate apps, Angular and React. And I want to create one app, which is called, whatever, Chukumuku, which is going to render Angular inside React. So how I'm going to do that? Let's quit that thingy and go to my app. So it is running. Here's my app. Very, very dummy app. And so here, what do I have? I have a React Hello World and Angular Hello World in the same HTML. So here, I assume that most of you know React and Angular. Who does? Who doesn't? No, the question was who does, and not just there was just a half of. So what most of you know, React or Angular? Who knows Angular? So the rest knows React. Okay, who knows React? Okay. So those who didn't raise the hand, what do you know? What? No, I didn't hear. PHP. Okay. Okay. I still assume that you do know Angular and React. I don't. This explanation, they don't, need very much knowledge. It's just very basic. Even if you don't know, you should understand. So what do I have here? I have div with React root. So inside this div, I have a React application. And if you ever saw the DOM that is generated by React, they have like data React root, blah, 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 all the bullshit thingy. So it's in React app, you believe me. And this one, inside this div, you have the ng-app attribute, which basically tells to Angular, here is my app, bootstrap it from here. Okay? And here it starts ng-app. And usually when Angular loads, it has like its thingy, which is called scopes. So it puts its own attributes. And here you can see like ng isolated scope. And inside that, you can see like hello world Angular and some scopes here, controller, okay? So people who know syntax of Angular, they will see that. You'll believe me that it is Angular. So coding time. So inside the code, I also have the source, and I have Angular and React. Each of them has a component. Very dummy, this is the React component, which basically says, render for me the hello React world. And here I have the Angular application also. It says also hello world. It is a component with the controller and the template and all the blah, blah, blah. So where do we start? We start with npm install, oh no, yarn add. Ashley is not here, she'll talk about that. React module container. Okay, this is a very tiny library that we wrote that basically does all the magic. And later we'll go to that library, to the source code, and you'll see that it's not magic at all. So I already did it, given our network. I'm not gonna do that. So what do we want? We want to make our Angular as a lazy application. In order to do that, I go to my Angular folder, and I'm gonna create here a new file, which we usually call manifest. Manifest.js, okay? So what's the idea? The idea is that I'm not gonna change the existing code of my Angular application. I'll just write a very small, thin layer that basically describes to the hosting application that that Angular app is a lazy app. How are we gonna do that? We import Angular lazy component from a React module container. If I have spelling mistakes, please tell me, because I'm not gonna find it, and this is gonna be very much embarrassing. So I create a new class, which is gonna basically say that this is my lazy component. Let's call it my ng-comp, which is gonna extends from Angular lazy component. Okay, and thank you, very kind people. And I'm gonna export the default thingy. That. Okay, so here I'm gonna define a constructor which is gonna get optionally some props from the hosting application, and I'm gonna call the constructor of Angular lazy component, which also gonna get those props, and some object. That object is like the descriptive object of my lazy app. So it's gonna tell, I'm gonna say which files I want to load. So if I go to my index.html, and this is index.vm, which is a template in for Java, never mind that. So my Angular app have some CSS and has some JavaScript, okay? So I want to load those files. So I'm just gonna copy that thing from here. Let's say I want to load my CSS, And also I want to load my JavaScript. This background noise that you hear, it's on purpose. So you won't be too much bored when I'm talking. So, and I know that I'm gonna load them from HTTP localhost 3200. Okay? And since I'm gonna load it, I'm gonna remove it from here, from my index HTML. And I'm gonna also remove this Angular app. Okay? So the next thing is, so basically we need to bootstrap manually the Angular. In order to do that, I need to know which module I need to bootstrap inside Angular. It is called my app. So I'm gonna just say that. And I also need to specify what is the root component. When I bootstrap the Angular, what is the root component of the whole app that I need to render? In my case, this is called main app. Okay, yes. So that's it. What I do now is I go to my React application as a hosting application, and I'm just gonna import that thing. Import, how did I call it? Blah. From Angular/manifest. Sweet. And I'm gonna render it inside my React. Mind-blowing, right? No. It is, actually, it is. And now let's pray to God that it's gonna work. So here I have my HTML. So here's React and Angular. I'm gonna refresh it, and boom, it looks the same, right? Almost. The thing is, where the magic happens is we're gonna take a look at the HTML, but first I want to go to network. So what happens in network? Here, so this is my React client bundle that is specified in index.html, okay? So you see, like, localhost, CSS, and bundles, they were loaded at the same time. But here, there is a lag, a little bit. It's very hard to see, but you see this thingy? They are not aligned, and this is the magic. Just 2 pixels difference. It means that those 2 files that I specified in my manifest were loaded asynchronously by tag appender, by the React module container. So it means, like, I specified that I want to see that component, and I loaded it. So it happened lazily. And another magic is that when you go to your HTML, so as I said, React root, React thingy, blah, 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 another div, and here we already don't have ng-app as a directive, but here, starting from here, actually from here, I have the main app, that Angular code, without any iframe, without any magic, just, you saw, like, 5 lines of code. And I have my Angular app inside React. This is mind-blowing. Yes? Please say yes. Yeah! Thank you. That's the moral support. Okay, but let's pause a little bit and think what I just did. Besides that amazing thing. So now my 2 applications, they're coupled together. So I do the import from the React app, I do the import of Angular app. What does it mean? Let's say Angular app is written by Martin, because just his name I know here, so that's why I'm pointing to Martin all the time. So Martin has a bug, and he wants to deploy his code. And then what happens? I have the import of his component. He comes to me and I'm like, yo, Sergey, you have to deploy your application because your application contains my application and I have a bug. And I'm like, dude, I can't because my build is red. So you have to wait until I fix my build. Then I run my test. I'll deploy it in 2 hours. And he's like, no. It's crazy. Like, my component is down. I'm like, sorry. So how we can fix that? In order to fix it, the same React module container has this thing which is called module registry. And module registry is a very, very, very dumb thing. It's just a hash map. It's a hash map which basically says which components are registered in that module registry, okay? And in order to do that, I import module registry and say register component. I give it some unique name, global ID, let's say angular.main, and I pass it a constructing function, which basically says how to instantiate my class. And I can remove that, and I can remove import from here. What I can do is I do import here, also from module registry, import React module container, and here I'm gonna create the instance of that component. So I say const this thingy equals module registry, and it has another function in order to instantiate component, which is called component, and I pass the name of the component that I want, okay? That's it. But I know that's not gonna work because I have to do one last thing. I go into my package.json and I want to create another file, another entry, which I'm gonna load that manifest separately, not trying to import it. So I'm gonna do, let's call it Angular manifest, okay? And I'm gonna load it in my index.js. And I always know where to load it from. So let's call it Angular manifest. Okay, so what did we achieve by that? So every time, since I'm not pointing directly to the Martin's application, I'm pointing to module registry, and module registry knows Martin's application. So whenever Martin is going to deploy it, when I'll load module registry, and module registry will just go and download the latest version of the component, to download the latest version of manifest of that component that we created, and it will load the latest code of the Martin's component, okay? It's very easy. So now it's not gonna work because I need to restart it and hope that it works. Come on, Bubble, do your magic thing. And voila, and it works. Basically, it works because it looks absolutely the same, the DOM is the same, the network is the same, everything is lazy loaded, but the thing is, now I'm really decoupled. So what happened is I achieved my heaven. Where is my presentation? So those two goals that I, here they are. Those two goals that I wanted to achieve, it's single page up with lazy loaded, isolated modules supporting existing Angular application. Because you saw that I didn't do any change in my Angular component. It still remained the same. I just added very small layer. So if you want to play with that, let's go to here. If you want to play with that example, the link is the React module container example. It's all on GitHub. And now we're going to dive into deep explanation, because I don't want to leave you like saying, guys, we wrote something amazing, go use it. No, this is boring. You're not going to use it unless you don't understand it. So we'll go there. But if you want to go there by yourself, it's React module container. That's it. It also has a demo. So feel free to clone the project, run it. There is end-to-end tests and demo. You'll play it with. It also has navigation demo. So how it uses Angular route, Angular UI route, React route all together. It's much bigger and like full-blown demo. You had a question? this is the thing. It doesn't care. Okay, this is like, you can use it with Angular, you can use it with React. What's for now is like your hosting application should be React. And if you inside Angular, inside React, you load Angular. Inside that Angular module, there is a directive. I'm not going to go into that because we have 5 minutes left. You can instantiate any other components, and you don't care in what they're written. Okay. So the beauty of this thing that it's framework agnostic. You can use it with any framework that you want. Okay. So what I wanted to do is to dive into code of this library and to show you that Angular lazy component that I extended from, and to show you how 35 lines of code enables that awesomeness. So let's see what happens here. You remember I called super and passed some object, which we called manifest, that specifies my files, specifies my module and container. So for those of you who are not familiar with React and like React lifecycle hooks, so basically React says you define a component has a certain lifecycle. When we render, the main function is render. It basically says what HTML to spit out. That will be inside the DOM. And it also has some lifecycle hooks, like tell me to run the certain function when component will mount, or tell me the certain function that I will call when I'm going to remove that component, and all the stuff like that. So component will mount, we have manifest with files, right? So what we do need to do is to take all those files, download them, basically append to head, which returns a promise. Whenever that promise is resolved, when we are ready to basically render the component, we do these 3 magic lines. So we create the HTML of that component that you specified. In our case, it was main app, and we call Angular Bootstrap. Angular Bootstrap, basically what it does, it manually starts the Angular application, creates the injector, calls all the other functions, and you need to tell what component you want where to start and which module. Okay, and this is basically the right way now to start Angular application, and you just append it to DOM. When we want to delete the component, so Angular has also some lifecycle hooks or lifecycle events, let's call it that way. So they have, when Angular know that it's removing all its HTML, they have root scope destroy. And whenever update happens, so in React, you can do force update or set the state, and then you have a lifecycle hook, which is called component.update. And in that case, we're gonna call digest cycle of Angular, which gonna basically tell the Angular application inside my React, like, dude, update yourself. And that's it, okay? And the same thing, we have Angular lazy component, we have also React lazy component. So your React application also can be lazily loaded, instantiate somewhere, wherever you want, and that's it. And it has very similar code. You have the manifest, you append all the files, you instantiate module from the module registry, and you render it. That's it, no magic. So now, this is the life that we live in. So where it can be useful? Oi. Thank you. So I have to say we didn't invent that stuff, okay? Because the same architecture is used by our mobile application. So at Wix we have one app, which basically is written by 6 teams, I guess. Also deployed independently, but they are bundled together without lazy loading yet. And they ship it, it's all in React Native. So, and they have absolutely the same architecture. Okay, so the beauty of that's framework agnostic. It works cross-platform, it works in mobile. And we look, now we're building a new dashboard at Wix, which involves like the whole company is involved with that. Many developers. And we're using the same approach. So we'll see that as like one app just for web. And it's only not just for large-scale application, okay? You also have like a medium-sized application, but you feel that it's a mess. It involves several modules, they are coupled. Just, you can use that architecture and decouple all your modules, lazy load them, put them where you want, and that's it. And now it's thank you. I don't think I have questions. No, I don't have time for questions, right? So, thank you.